Hello, everyone. This is me again. So, this is the second week of Code S full stack development with Python and Django. Right, and this week we are going to make sure that we finish this Python recap thing. And from next week, we are going to start with the web development aspect of it. No, we'll do something before we come there. Right. So, all this while I've been using Linux. So, when there's something that I feel like I need to show in Windows, I will show you to you here in Windows, right? So let me start in Windows. So if you're using Windows, just go ahead. I'm assuming that by now at this level you have already installed your VS Code and everything. So I just go ahead and search for my VS Code, right? And I should see it. So I started. Okay. Here's my VS Code. And even what I opened last time is here. But assuming for you is not here, first of all, create a folder on your machine, and then when you go to open folder, it's on my desktop, and I open it. I click on it, select the folder, and to open that folder for me, right, which I already have opened here. So in week one, I just did something to demonstrate the Windows and all of that. So I don't use Windows personally. So if you use Windows, everything I'm about to do also applies in Windows. In the terminal here, right? So basically we are running the code with the terminal, right? So if you want to, you can use terminal directly in Visual Studio Code. So if you want to open the terminal in the Visual Studio Code, you just click Control and then backtick. The backtick sign, so if let me show you where the backtick sign is. This is the backtick sign, right? So if you press Control and then backtick together, it will open the terminal in Visual Studio for you. So when I do that, you see that the terminal will open. So let's do that. All right. Anyway, for some reason it's not opening. I don't know why. Also, if you click on this play button, it should open. Right. So this is a terminal, right? So in Windows, if you're not familiar with the terminal, you just press dir. That will show you the items here. You can move it up to see. So you see that week one and week two. We are right now. You can see the current folder we are in is Python 2020, right? So if you want to move to maybe the desktop folder, you can say cd. Let's say dot dot. Need to move to the desktop folder, and you say dir. It will list the items in the desktop folder, right? So if I want to, I see that you have Python 2020 here. I have Visual Studio Code here. So cd means change directory, right? So here this hello py, you can see this thing here says it's directory. This is just a file, right? So if it's not directory, it's a file. So if I want to go into Python 2020, I just say cd and Python 2020, and then here am I. The ir show the element there. So in Python 20, I have week one and week two. So if I want to run this one, that's first py. You see that first py is in week one. So I cd into week one, and then I run Python just as we did last week. Python and then the name of the file. So the name of the file here is first py, and I press enter, and then it runs it for me. So here this Python is saying, hey Python, run this file for me, right? Yeah. So I'll go back. If I cd into week two, you see that if I do dir, there's nothing in there, right? So that's about the command line. I don't know, for some reason the shortcut for opening the command line is not working in Windows. I don't know, maybe we can find it here. Uh, or you can just say you can type Control Shift P. When you type Control Shift P and you search for command line or search for terminal, right? So when I say terminal, say open new terminal. Oh, okay, Control Shift C. So if I click on, oh, that will open new terminal outside. It's annoying. Anyway, so let's forget about it anyway. So control is in Control Shift C to open the terminal. Control Shift C, but it will open this kind of terminal, which is also the same thing, right? You can do the same thing here. CD. See, if you see the IR, you see the element in the items there. This is basically your desktop, so you can see that everything here is also in your desktop and all of that. Yeah, so this is just something short for the Windows users. Okay, so let me come back to my stuff. So yeah, week 2. So week 2, what are we going to do in week 2? So the first thing you are going to do in week 2, one of the things you are going to do in week 2 is a functions, right? So you are going to tackle what a function is. So let me first open my Visual Studio Code here, and I open my Visual Studio Code here, and you can see that if you don't have, I've already opened the folder, but if I don't have it, I just have to look for it, and then I open it just like what I showed in Windows. The Visual Studio Code will open it for me. So these are the things we did last week, right? And if you go to our GitHub, you see everything there. And so this week 2, everything that we are going to do in week 2 will be in our week 2 folder, and it will be on our GitHub repository. So let's start with functions. So what is a function, right? So they would ask, what is a function in Python or in programming, right? So this is also one of the things that we'll use, right? So we've learned about variables, and we did a lot of coding and all of that. So then the question is, what is a function? So the next thing to do is a function. So then we're going to ask, what's a function? So as you recall from your math class, a function takes input and then gives output. So basically that's what a function is, right? If you remember your math, core math, I don't know if you also did elective math. F of x is equal to 2x plus 1. That means if you put in x, you are going to get the value for whatever is here, right? So you can also create a function in Python, but don't think about it just in terms of just mathematics. A function in Python can just take any input and it can give any output, right? So you can have a function, just think of it like this. A function in programming is just a box, right? It takes in some input and it will give you an output, right? To give you an output. So we are going to learn how to create a function in Python, right? So functions are very important in programming because they make your code very simple. They allow you to break down your code into several parts, right? So suppose, for instance, you want to so remember, like last week we were doing this mobile money thing, right? And then we're saying, okay, first of all, we are saying the person will enter Momo code, whatever, some long things, right? And we wrote everything here in one long thing, right? So we can break it down. You can start by breaking it down. Yeah? You can start by saying, okay, we have a function that shows the menu. So we can start by breaking down and say, okay, we have the menu, right? We have our menu, and then we have the short code. So we want a function that will take the short code, right? I have the short code, and then it will give you a menu, right? So for instance, in MTN, if I type *124#, I get a different menu from if I type *170. That is what will give me the mobile money thing, right? So if you are dealing with the mobile money thing, You can even see that if I choose 1, it will give me a different menu. If it will give me different options later, and if I choose 2, right, and if I choose 3 and I choose 4. So we can use functions to break our code down instead of writing the code like this. And usually I like showing you instead of like talking plenty about it. So let me create functions.py. Right. So in function first let me show you how to create a function in Python. In Python, to create a function, you say what, def, and then you say you type the name of the function, right? So for instance, if we wanted to create this function, let's give it a name, line func, right? And we know that it takes in 1 input, so we can name the input anything at all. It doesn't have to be x or something. And then we know that it will return what, 2x plus 1, right, or 2. So to say that the output, if you say your function will give me this output, so return means to give the output 2 times z, that's z plus 1, right? And then I'll say, so what does this mean? It means that what I've done is here I've created a function called line func, right? So if you want to create a function, all you have to do is def and then the name of the function, then open bracket, close bracket, and then if the function has input, you give it you give it the name of the input, and then you can use the input here, right? So let me just show you what happened. Now if you want to use the function, you just have to call it. So you are calling this function, and let's say you are giving it an input of 3, right? So what will happen is that now we want to store the result, right? Whatever I to give output, so input, and then it to give us an output, and then we're going to print the result. Right. So let me open our terminal, right? And we are in week 2. So if I cd to week 2, right, and then I say Python. So because in Linux, which is different from Windows, I'm using Linux right now, and I told you last time we have 2 versions of Python. We have Python 2 and Python 3. And in Python 2, to get Python 2, you just use Python, and to get Python 3, you have to type Python 3. So we are using Python 3, and in Windows we've just installed Python 3, so we don't need to do that thing. But in Linux, every time you are using Python 3, you have to type Python 3. So then I type the name of the file, right? So remember that I'm in week 2 folder, and this function also is in week 2 folder. And so the answer is 7, right? Why? The result is 7. What happened? So I created a function called line func, and I say it takes an input z. Now this z here, it will return an output which calculates 2 times the z that I give it plus 1, right? So and then I put 3 here, which means that our z is now 3. So it will say 2 times 3, that's 6 plus 1, that's 7. Right, so that you see it makes sense. So if I put 99 here, that's 2 times 99 is 198 plus 1 is 199, right? 199. So a function takes in input and gives output, right? So we'll come back to this. So in this case, our function was taking in an input z, right, and it's giving an output what, 2 times z plus 1, right? So input to output, that's just that. Okay, so let's create another function. So let's create a function that takes the name of a person, and then it will return hello, it will greet the person. So def greet me. Let's create a function called greet me, and you say name, right, and return. So if you remember what we did last week, if you use the f and you say you want to say good morning, so good morning, and then we type the name, right? So which means that what happens is that, So result is equal to greet me, and then let's type someone's name. So since the name we are expecting here is going to be a string, we need to put it in a quotation marks. So say name Hirozen, right? And then let's print the result. So good morning Hirozen. If I change the name to maybe SBK, then I run again, good morning SBK. So just we have created a function that takes an input name and then put it here for us, right? So you can do a lot of things in a function. Okay. So let's extend this greet me function. So with this greet me function, you see it is greeting good morning, right? So let's create a function with two inputs, right? And to the next output is time of day, right? Remember, you can't leave space, you can't use spaces, so that's why you have to use underscore. It doesn't make sense to use space. If you do that, Python will not understand what you're saying, right? And so the time of day, we are going to say, for now, let's make it simple and say for the time of day, right? You know, there's a comment, so we have morning, afternoon, and evening, right? So if so greeting, so let's create a variable called greeting, and then we set it to empty, and then we are going to do something here. If time of day equals morning, then our greeting will be what? Good morning. A leaf, right? Or else if time of day equals, now you see this is not just like the normal equals, it's different from this. So if you've not realized, I'm telling you, equals afternoon, right? Greeting is equal to good afternoon. Else greeting is equal to good evening. right. So then what we are going to do is here is that we are going to replace this thing with greeting, right? So what will happen? What have we done here? We've created a function that takes two inputs, name and time of day, and then we create a variable here called greeting. Why did we create a variable here called greeting? Because we wanted to use them here, right? That's why we created. So first of all, we said it's empty, so it's just nothing is inside, it's an empty string, right? And then we say greeting equals good morning if time of day is equal to morning. If time of day is equal to afternoon, greeting is equal to good afternoon, else greeting is equal to good evening. Okay, so if I save this, and I run, what will happen? Oh, I'm getting an error. So what's the point of this error, right? So what this error is saying is that greeting missing one required positional argument, time of day, which means that so what is happening? It said to greet me missing one required positional argument, time of day. So what is going on here? We said the function takes two arguments, but we only gave it one argument. So what we need to do is to give it a second argument, comma, time of day. So if we say morning and I run, right? So let me clear it first. And I run, said good morning SBK, right? And if I change it to afternoon, and then I run, say good afternoon SBK. Ah, that's good, that's good. But what if I change it to dawn, and then I run? It's saying good evening SBK. So what happened? Is it that whose fault is it? Is it supposed to say good evening? We change the thing to dawn. So it doesn't make sense, right? But it actually does. So what we've done here is because of the logic we've written here. Say if time of day is equal to morning, that's what you've told the computer to do. As I've told you, anything you tell the computer to do, it will do it. That is exactly what it will do. It will not do anything else. So if you say time of day is equal to morning, greet good morning, right? So fine. When we entered morning, greet good morning. Time of day is afternoon, greet good afternoon. When we entered afternoon, greet. And then we say else. So that means the else means that if any of these things don't work, then you do this for the last thing, right? And that's why I said, so dawn didn't work for morning, it didn't work for afternoon. So what did it work for? We didn't say anything about evening, right? So if we change this to a leaf, time of day is equal to evening, right? Then you greet good evening, okay? And then if I put in evening here, I run the damn thing, it's going to say good evening SBK. But let's put in dawn there again and see what happens. Right, it's going to just say SBK. So which means that it only printed the name, but it didn't print the greeting, or it printed a greeting because you can see that there's a small space here, right? So what did we do? We said the greeting is empty, and then the small space you are seeing there is because of this space, right? So first of all, we said the greeting is empty initially, and then we come here and say if time of day equals morning, greeting is morning. If time of day equals afternoon, greeting is good afternoon. If time of day equals evening, greeting is good evening, right? So what is going on here for us? What is going on here? What is going on here is that we haven't said anything about dawn, right? Remember in the last one we added else. So the use of the else is that we are going to say if anything doesn't work at all, right? If anything doesn't work, then you're going to do the else thing, right? So that one is up to you. So if the time of day is not morning, it's not afternoon, it's not evening. So usually when you're writing code, you have certain things that you're matching again, right? For instance, if you're saying, oh, the weather is sunny or rainy. So if the user doesn't input sunny or rainy and they input something else, what should he do, right? So it's that one is up to you, the code to the programmer to do it. And we're going to say